Hi, and welcome to my channel Crossing Cat. My name is Julia, and today I'm going to be doing a museum speed build. I am technically rebuilding this space. The build that I have here now, I built before the update came out, and I really wanted to update it. So that is what this video is going to be. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First, let me give you a tiny little tour of the area. Right here, I have a nice little coffee stand, along with a bench to drink your coffee on. I also included the Valiant statues just because I think they really enhance the look of the museum. I also have two staircases leading up on either side of the museum to kind of make the building look a little bit more big. And there's another Valiant statue as well. Here I really went for the symmetry, putting two coffee stands on either side along with two tables to enjoy your coffee on. Now, I am choosing to redo this build because Brewster came, and he has his own coffee shop, so I don't want to put a competition coffee shop right outside his shop. So just to be a little bit more respectful to Brewster, I thought I would take away my homemade coffee shop. And also I feel like it's a little bit outdated at this point to be using the stalls the way that I did. We have so many new cool items that I'd like to incorporate into this area. And also, I would like to make it look a little bit more overgrown. I have an overgrown theme to my island, and I really want to stick to that. But when I was finishing my island for the first time, I really wanted to have 5 stars. So I couldn't plant as many trees as I would have liked to because I was very close to the tree limit. I ended up having to cut down a couple trees right before I set my dream address, before when I finished my island. So I couldn't put any trees here, so I made it a little bit more developed than the rest of my island, and a little bit more developed than I would have liked it to be. And that is what I'm here to try to fix. Now I did remove the bridge just because I wanted a little more space to work with, and I didn't think that I wanted any water in this area, but I changed my mind. Spoiler alert, I will be putting all of this water back. But it ended up working out because I actually used the space where the water was to move the museum to. And I moved the museum so that I could put the castle walls behind it. I really liked the shape of the museum and the museum building, but I really wanted to change it and make it look a little bit more like it was tailored to my island. Even though we all have the same museum, I've seen a lot of people try to do little tips and tricks to make it look a little bit more in line with the theme of different islands, and I think that's a really cool idea. So I wanted to put the castle walls behind it. I'm hoping that it'll make the building look a little bit bigger and just a little bit grander. I decided to put a pillar in the middle because there is an odd number of slots and the castle walls only take up 2 spaces. So I just used a cement pillar in the middle with the throwback Gothic mirror on top, just to complete the wall a little bit. Since this is going to be directly behind the building, I don't think it'll show that much, but just in case anyone sees it, it will be there. It may seem like a lot of effort just to move the museum twice to move it up 1 space, and it is quite expensive, but I have the bells to do it, so I might as well be nitpicky about it. I also just time traveled, so this wouldn't take forever. Here are the walls behind the museum. I think it makes the building look a little bit bigger, which was what I was going for. And I think along with other elements, I should have no problem blending everything together and making it fit with my island theme. Now I am just adding some of the ruined pillars in the ivory coloration. Those match the museum just perfectly. And I'm also adding some statues on the side. I really want to incorporate a lot of art into this build because I feel like it'll add a different layer. You know, it's right next to the museum. And usually I find that museums have pieces of art right outside them just to draw people in, so that is what I wanted to do. I am also finishing off the fencing around Coco's house. I don't know why it wasn't finished off before, but I finished her fence, so now her yard can be fully fenced in. And right after that, I am skipping over to the orchard. I used to have a very large orchard on this island, and I decided to take it down to incorporate the vegetables that we got in the update. So this is my much more condensed version, and I wanted to make it like a little run-through orchard, something that wouldn't take up too much space, just like a hallway of trees, with a little pathway so I can get to this beach a little bit quicker when I want to. I really like having an orchard on my island because occasionally I have a new friend that starts playing Animal Crossing and they haven't accumulated all the fruits yet, so I like to be able to help people out when they start. Now I have moved on and I am adding another art piece to this area. This particular statue I don't remember the name of, but I know that I've tried to incorporate it in several different places on my island and I never really liked where I ended up putting it, so I was really happy that I was able to incorporate it into this build. I just put some fencing around it to make it look a little bit more grand so, children can't climb on it. Most museums have some sort of barrier in between people and the art just so no incidents happen. So I wanted to recreate that there. And I also put another statue. I forget what this one is called as well. I liked that there because it looks like it's a little informational stone, and I like that idea. Now I have moved on to putting down some of the pathing, and the pathing just takes me forever. I always have to redo and undo the pathing several times to figure out how I want it to look and how I can get it to look a little bit more natural. 9-tile paths are so great. I really enjoy using this particular path because it is just dirt, it's nothing fancy, and I feel like a lot of islands could use the same path, a lot of different themes, so it is one of my favorites. I chose to include the footage of me putting down the paths because I like watching other people put down their custom paths, especially 9-tile paths. Feel free to skip through it if you don't like watching. I know that I enjoy watching it, so I thought that some of you might enjoy it. I also include my cleanup sections at the beginning of the video because I like to watch other people do that. It's like a sense of accomplishment that you get from watching someone else be productive. It's Animal Crossing productive, but still, it's very nice to watch other people get stuff done, and I enjoy it, so I decided to incorporate them into my videos as well. Previously in this area, I had the in-game stone path. Here, I think it was the stone arched path. And I went with that because I wanted the area to look a little bit more developed. I wanted this and the area above to kind of match in their developedness. Right above the museum, I have a bakery, so I just kind of brought everything down and made it look very fancy. But again, now that I can use more trees, I want to make this area look more natural. I'd say right now my island is leaning a little bit more towards forest core, which I'm really excited about because I really like forest core islands. I definitely wanted to make one, but now that this island's so close to that theme, I feel like I might have it covered in this island, but I still may choose to do another one in the future. Hopefully I'm playing this game for a long time. One of my goals with this area was to make it a little bit flatter than the rest of my island. I don't have just a whole lot of terraforming all over my island, but I have a tendency to make really small areas and then close them in and make them a little secluded looking, which I really like for this theme. It definitely fits with the overgrown vibe of the island, but I do feel like the island lag is a little bit ridiculous on my island. It really doesn't bother me that much. It's kind of like a badge of honor. Like, I've put so many items down that the game can no longer handle how many things I have. I try to look at it that way. It's like an accomplishment to have lag on your island because, you've spent a lot of time and effort making it look good. Back to what I am doing in the build, I am currently making a platform. I wanted to use the Valiant statues that I had in this build, but not make them symmetrical, so I am making a little platform for one of the Valiant statues. I believe I only used one of them in this build, and that is because on my castle build I ended up putting 2 Valiant statues facing each other on either side of the build, and I think it's really cute. I just don't want to have that in 2 separate places on my island. I do have a speed build for that castle, so if you're interested in seeing me build it, I will have that linked below if I remember to do that. I didn't want to make the platform a perfect circle because the statue itself is a perfect circle and I didn't want them to be matching at all. So I came up with this little oval shape to put it on in the center, and that also gives me additional space to add some plants. Eventually in this build, I do connect the little oval back to the big waterfall. And actually in the middle of this build, I went and I redid the waterfall to make it look more natural to match this area with the museum. I decided to cut it out of the video because it would have made the video entirely too long, but I will probably be posting a speed build of me fixing that waterfall and making it look a little bit more natural, just because I think it looks a lot better than the original. Now I am back to putting pathing down. Again, there's a lot of pathing in this build because I wanted to keep it very flat, so I just wanted to make sure that all of the paths were going to end up perfect. Just because this particular build is very pathing heavy, if I mess up some of the pathing, then it's really going to show because I don't have that many tall items to kind of cover up my mistakes or areas that maybe just don't look as good. So I spent a lot of time on the pathing. I think that's a really good tip for making areas that are a little bit flatter, is just to put a whole bunch of pathing so there's still a lot of things going on, but also you have a clear line of sight in a large area of your island. And we've got Punchy and Flick walking around making sure the pathing works out. Thanks to both of them for hanging out with me. Hopefully having this area flat will make the island lag a little bit less, but I doubt it's going to help every problem that I have. While I continue putting down some pathing, I am going to talk about my inspiration for this build. I usually try to go into most of my builds with inspiration or a clear idea of what I want to do in the area, just so it takes a little bit less time for me to finish the build. But for this particular build, I had no sight in mind. I just went in, I knew I wanted to get rid of this area and redo it. I just started cleaning it up and hoped for the best. I think it worked out ultimately in the end, but I vastly prefer having a setup plan so I don't have to think too hard about what I'm doing while in the process. I think I did this build over a couple days, and if I hadn't had the couple of days to figure out what I was actually doing, it probably wouldn't have turned out as good. So I'm glad I gave myself the time even though I didn't plan out anything. So I'm really glad that it worked out. Right now I am currently working on my orchard, and I decided to use my brick path for this area just to make it official that there's a little walkway here so that you can get to the beach on the other side. I really like the way the fruit trees kind of frame the area, as well as the fruit trees in the back kind of frame the little bunny farm that I have right there. So I think it looks very cute. I have checked and I've made sure that you can get fruit from all of the trees. I don't think you get all of the fruit from the trees, like some of them disappear because there's no space for them to fall, but I am okay with that. As long as I have access to at least one fruit tree of every type, I think I will be okay. That's also super good for the cooking mechanic. I am currently trying to make every recipe in the game, but unfortunately, I'm not too great about going around and looking for my mystery bottle from the ocean, or going and talking to my villagers to get recipes, so I am falling behind on that one, but it is still a goal of mine. Back to what I am actually doing in the build, I am starting to re-add the water feature, and I decided to make this a different shape than the other one. The other water feature I had was very rectangular and it looked really unnatural, but it fit in with the area because the area didn't look that natural before. But this time I want to make it look like it's a naturally occurring little pond. I definitely need a lot more practice waterscaping. I like the way this turned out, but it did take me a long time to figure out the exact shape I wanted. I think I stopped in the middle of making it to go back and do something else because I started to get a little bit annoyed with the water terraforming tool. I really like that we can terraform and change the land on our island, but the tool is not the most convenient thing, and I'm sure a lot of you can agree with that. Yeah, here I am making more paths because I don't know what to do with the water, and that's also a good tip. When you don't know what you're doing in one section, go back and do something you do know how to do so you don't get discouraged so easily. I find that when I'm doing builds and I'm not really sure what I'm doing, or I don't really know what the vision is for that particular spot on my island, I tend to just do a little bit at a time. And whenever I feel myself getting discouraged or a little burnt out on the area, I'll just go and fix something else or do something else. I think that's a really good time to go visit NPCs as well, or just talk to your villagers, because those are things that don't take a whole lot of mental strength to do, and you're still getting things done on your island, and you're still being Animal Crossing productive, which we all like to be. I think it's a really great tip so you don't get so burnt out so quickly, or maybe not at all, potentially, maybe not, but it's really helped me a lot. Does anyone else have the problem of not liking the way their water looks on their map? Because I feel like I make water so that it looks good when I'm standing in the space, but when I like step back and I look at the map at like the shapes I'm making with my water terraforming, it never really looks that cohesive. You may know that I have a lake on my island right behind this area, and the lake is really weirdly shaped on the map, but it looks natural when you're walking about the island, so I never really thought to look at the map until someone asked me to see the map, and then I realized that it looks really weird, and I don't know how to fix that. I don't really want to fix it, per se, just because I like the way it looks running around my island, and I think that's way more important than just having a pretty map, although I do really like it when people have really organized, pretty maps. Like Froggy Crossing's map, she has a literal frog in a river, like a frog river, around her entire island. That's so impressive. I wish I could have like the planning ability to do that, but I just don't. I suppose I could do stuff like that. It would just take planning. And this island was not planned out in the slightest. This is my very first island still, and I just keep editing it and making it better every time. And I find that really fun. I really like reorganizing things in my life, so I really like reorganizing things in Animal Crossing, and it works out perfectly for me. We are now in the final stretch of the video, and I am starting to place some decorative items. I decided to turn around the Gothic mirrors because they do have little gargoyles on them, and I really like them. They're so tiny and cute, and I really like the Gothic mirror item. I think it looks really good turned around because it kind of just makes the pillar look a little bit taller, but having them face front adds a little bit more detail to the build, so I decided ultimately it's better to have the front facing forward, which I should have known right off the bat, but you know, you gotta try things. Now I am working on a little sitting area. I knew I wanted a sitting area in this vicinity just because the roost is inside of the museum, and I know that you can get coffee to go, and I think it's really cute to like go in and grab your coffee and like sit outside and look at the art pieces that are outside, and now there are nice little benches to enjoy it on. So that was kind of my vision for this tiny little area. Also, sitting areas are a great space filler. If you don't know what to put in a space, just put some seats down and maybe your villagers will sit down and have a nice snack there. It's so cute to find your villagers sitting on furniture that you put out, even though most of the time they choose to sit on the ground next to a bench, which is a little bit annoying, but still cute to see them out and about and around. And I am back to pathing, of course. This build has so much pathing in it. A lot of my time was dedicated to pathing, and I did cut a lot of it out, so that just goes to show you it takes a long time to path things, and it takes me a long time because I want it to look as good as it can possibly get. Just a little tip for when you're doing more natural sections of your island, or maybe you're doing forest core or an overgrown aesthetic like I am. I try to think about going from the pathway and gradually going up, so going shortest item to tallest item. So next to the path I have a lot of weeds, and weeds are pretty short, and then I go up to flowers, and then usually I just go to medium height items, and then the tallest is trees. And I don't always stick to this, but it's a nice rule of thumb to go by if you're wanting to make your areas look natural. Also, if you're doing that, it helps you to see all of your items that you've been using. If you're using tall items in front, you're never going to see the shorter items behind them, so I think it's really good to think of like a slope going up from where your paths are everywhere. I am now placing some of the last items for this build. As you just saw, I just put a whole bunch of green leaf piles on the ground all over the place. It would be no build of mine without the green leaf piles, so that's very important. Also, the wheat field item. I use that item all of the time. It's very important that I use it every single build. And I think it's a really good idea to have items that are consistent throughout all of your builds, just to tie the whole thing together. That way you can branch out and use really unique items, but your island will still look cohesive because you have those consistent items that you put in every build, and it makes your island look a lot more put together, or maybe a lot more thought out than it actually was. And with this final little adjustment of the path, I think it is time to go ahead and do the reveal. So let's head on over to that. And here we are. As you can see, I have done some time traveling. It is early morning in early March, which is my favorite time. And I have changed a couple things, so if you notice some things that are different, I have sat with this build a couple days and made it a little bit better. But this is what it looks like right now. I've got the nice dirt path leading you everywhere. Lots of pieces of art on display. And just lots of nature. I really like the way my little pond turned out, especially when it has the little fogs over it because it's morning. Another one of my favorite parts is how these two fruit trees, the apple and the peach tree, kind of frame the bunny farm. The bunny farm is one of my favorite builds, and I'm just now realizing that I put a bunny farm right behind Coco's house, and Coco's a bunny, but that's okay. Different breed of bunny, I guess. Here is some more art. And here is the little sitting area. I really like the way this build turned out. I'm really proud of it, especially since I didn't plan it. I really thought it was going to end up a flop and I wasn't going to be able to post it, but it worked out in the end. And that is all I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to this point. It means a lot to me. It really does. If you liked this video, make sure you like it with your mouse or your finger or whatever you're using to click. And if you didn't like it, feel free to dislike it. Let me know what's going on. I love feedback. Also, if you would like to subscribe, you can do that. Thank you again so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon.